embedded in your instructional leadership should be you being an instructional coach. And when you think about coaching, a great analogy is sports. You have a coach that is in practice, that is on the sideline during games, that is constantly reading the defense, looking at the offense, making in-game adjustments. And that is your responsibility as a school leader once you get into that role. It's to constantly coach your teachers and help them become facilitators of learning as opposed to relying specifically on their content knowledge and being lecturers. We don't want to be lecturers. We want to be facilitators of learning. What's going on, aspiring school leader? I am Dr. Donovan Smalls II, and welcome to Beyond the Classroom. I help aspiring school leaders land their first leadership role, navigate complex dynamics, enhance communication skills, and drive instructional excellence. Today's topic is From Talking to Teaching, the critical difference school leaders must recognize. Now, as an aspiring school leader, your experience as it relates to being an instructional leader and identifying effective teaching and learning beyond your classroom might be limited. You might be in a situation where your ability to observe great teaching and learning outside of what you do might be scarce. You might not have had the opportunity to go into many classrooms to really see different teaching styles and methods and implementation strategies as it relates to increasing student achievement. You just might not have experienced that. And so when you step into your first school leadership role, you're going to notice that you might be responsible for supervising 15, 20, 25 teachers depending on your school size, depending on how your administrative team, depending on your role, has separated who you are going to formally evaluate. And so with those many different teaching styles that you are going to experience, it's important that you have an open mind and that you're not trying to get teachers to teach like how you taught. Although you are, and you once you transition, you were an amazing classroom teacher, that doesn't mean that you must now lead people into conforming into how great of a teacher that you were. I think it's important to recognize that, you are a coach, right? You are an instructional leader. You are an instructional coach in addition to your formal role. And what that means is it's not your responsibility to have these coaching sessions, these pre-observation, these post-observation conferences that are trying to get teachers to conform to how great you were. But it is your job and your role is to see the greatness in terms of the teaching strategies that your teachers have and then pull out the greatness in them. And so as an instructional leader, one of the things you might recognize in terms of areas of improvement, you might notice that a teacher is great at talking, but as it relates to teaching, that might not necessarily be their strong suit, right? They might need improvement as it relates to the teaching practice. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have a new teacher that you are supervising. They might be great at talking, but when it comes to teaching, there's strategy that needs to be involved, and you are responsible for helping them to get to where they need to be to improve teaching and learning. So what that means is teaching is a skill set that requires structure, planning, organization, and reflection to create an environment where students can truly learn. See, there are a bunch of different elements as it relates to being an effective teacher that are different from just standing up in front of a class of students and just talking, right? Two separate things. As a school leader, it's critical to recognize the difference between talking and teaching in order to coach and support teachers effectively. So we are going to talk about 5 keys as it relates to moving from talking to teaching. So number 1, teaching requires more than just speaking well. Being highly intellectual or articulate does not necessarily equate to being an effective teacher. Teaching demands a structured approach that goes beyond simply sharing knowledge. So one of the first things that you want to recognize is when you go to do some sort of evaluation or even a walkthrough, who is talking the most? Think about it. If you are currently a teacher striving to be a school leader, you know that the individual or people who are talking the most typically are learning the most. So if the teacher is talking the most, then the teacher is learning the most. And so we want to be able to encourage and coach teachers into flipping that, right? The teacher should be a facilitator of learning as opposed to the main person that's talking in the classroom. So you have to figure out strategies that are going to allow that teacher to kind of remove themselves to be a facilitator of learning and not the main person that is constantly talking. Is there a segment in the lesson where the teacher should be talking? Absolutely. Am I saying that the teacher should just not talk at all? Absolutely not. But you need to figure out how you can support that teacher in allowing them to effectively engage the students in some sort of project, in some sort of, some sort of we do or you do that allows the students to actively engage in whatever the lesson is. So as a coach, that's one of the things that you need to be looking at. Teaching requires more than just speaking well. You have to figure out strategies to coach that teacher to be more of a facilitator of learning. Number 2, teaching is a skill set, not just a talent. Effective teaching involves planning, organization, reflection, and intentional strategies that promote student learning rather than just delivering information. So we kind of talked about that earlier, right? Think about this. If you were an athlete, you know that there are some people that just have raw talent. They just have that ability to compete and to just, they haven't even had the level of practice that they might have needed to reach the skill level that they have, right? They have just the raw talent. But teaching is also a skill set, not just a talent. So you might have a teacher that has the talent, but it is your responsibility as an instructional leader to then develop the skill. You have to start developing that skill set, sitting down with them, setting goals, setting benchmarks. How are we going to get you from not just operating in the talent that you have, in the charisma that you have, in the engagement that you have, the relationships that you have with students, but now we start to put some structure into your lessons that allows students to actively engage, that allows students to actively increase their levels of achievement because of the structure that you helped that teacher put in place. So again, number 2, teaching is a skill set, not just a talent. Number 3, the role of structure and preparation in effective teaching. Strong teachers develop well-structured lessons, anticipate student needs, and create an environment that fosters engagement and understanding. So we know that students learn best how? Learning by doing. Learning by doing. What type of lesson do we need to help the teacher create so that the student is actually, or the students are actively engaged in the lesson? It has to have some structure. And embedded in the lesson, the teacher needs to be able to anticipate student needs and put structures in place that is going to maximize instructional time. So if students are constantly asking the teacher for a pencil or different type of materials, what structures can we put in place that allows that teacher to be better? If students are sitting in groups, do we need to have some sort of bin or container with the materials that students are going to need to maximize instructional time so that the teacher is not constantly getting questions about, can I sharpen my pencil? Or do you have a pencil? Or do you have paper? Do you have an eraser? Do you have highlighters, right? What type of structures can we put in place that allows all of the materials to be present at all times for the students to engage in? We need to have structure within that lesson to maximize instructional time. So again, the role of structure and preparation in effective teaching is critical. Number 4, school leaders must coach teachers beyond intellectualism. Leaders need to identify teachers who may be relying too heavily on their knowledge and speaking ability and guide them toward implementing instructional strategies that truly impact student learning. So you might have a teacher who is extremely skilled in content knowledge. I mean, they know exactly what it is that they are teaching. There is no hesitation, no doubt about it. You go into the lesson, they are definitely accurate in their content and the way that they're delivering it. However, they might be relying too much on their content knowledge as opposed to putting in structures in place that are going to allow students to benefit from that content knowledge in ways that are non-traditional. The teacher should not be a lecturer. They should be a facilitator of learning. You're going to hear me say that a lot because students need to be engaged. Students need to be learning by doing. Students need to have hands-on experiences to engage with the manipulatives to actually learn the materials. So if they are constantly sitting in rows, we need to change that. If they are constantly sitting down for long periods of time without any particular movement, we might need to adjust that. And so you as an instructional coach, in addition to you being an instructional leader, you have to start recognizing the different learning and teaching styles of all of the teachers that you are responsible for supervising, and then coaching other people in areas where you see that teachers are actually getting tangible results. Connect them with a teacher that does something extremely well. If there's high levels of engagement that you see this one teacher that's doing in their classroom, connect them with a teacher that may need improvement in that particular area. So you need to be actively taking notes and understanding what your teachers are doing well and figuring out how to support them to make them more facilitators of learning and not just standing in front of students and talking all the time. That's one of the strategies that I think is really going to help elevate your ability to be an instructional leader. It's recognizing what's happening with the teachers that you supervise in their classrooms and what they're doing well, and then connecting them with other teachers to help improve their practice. And then lastly, the connection between teaching quality and student achievement. If the goal is to improve student outcomes, school leaders must ensure that teachers are not just talking at students, but actively engaging them in the learning process through well-planned and reflective instruction. So I want you to encourage your teachers, right? When you land that first leadership role, once you get into the role, I want you to encourage reflection. So not only are you going to constantly be engaged in your reflective practice, you also want to encourage that with your teachers. And I think an extremely effective way to be reflective is to actually write things down, to document what you saw, right? And you could even use voice notes on your phone. And then here's an AI tool that you could use. You can actually use your voice memos in your phone, take the transcript, upload it to ChatGPT, and it can give you concrete notes as it relates to what you need to do better. So we're incorporating technology into the lesson, and then we're also allowing teachers to use these tools that are going to best benefit them, right? Because everything is about being efficient. We know that teachers lack time with a lot of different things that they want to do because of all that we ask them to do, all that is required of them to do. And so anywhere that you can incorporate a little bit of technology to maximize their time, I want you to encourage that as well. So today we talked about from talking to teaching, the critical difference school leaders must recognize. And we went through 5 key points. Teaching requires more than just speaking well. That's number 1. Number 2, teaching is a skill set, not just a talent. Number 3, the role of structure and preparation in effective teaching. School leaders must coach teachers beyond intellectualism. And then number 5, the connection between teaching quality and student achievement. In addition to you being an instructional leader, or should I say, embedded in your instructional leadership should be you being an instructional coach. And when you think about coaching, a great analogy is sports. You have a coach that is in practice, that is on the sideline during games, that is constantly reading the defense, looking at the offense, making in-game adjustments. And that is your responsibility as a school leader once you get into that role. It's to constantly coach your teachers and help them become facilitators of learning as opposed to relying specifically on their content knowledge and being lecturers. We don't want to be lecturers. We want to be facilitators of learning, and that is going to be one of your primary responsibilities as you start to transition to school leadership. I hope you gained value from this episode, and if you did, make sure that you share it with someone else. As always, I hope you have a great week of teaching, leading, and learning. Take care.
I love that you talked about mindset, because mindset is extremely important as you become a school leader. And so that leads us into our second complexity, which is navigating the learning curve, right? Whenever you are promoted to the next level in your career, you will always begin as a novice. So it doesn't matter that you are an effective classroom teacher, you have raving reviews from your students. Becoming a school leader is a different skill set. And so we need to start teaching aspiring school leaders that it takes a level of emotional intelligence and self-awareness to understand just because you got results doesn't mean you're going to get results here. You need to work at this. And so one of the things I constantly think about is the fact that the learning curve can be steep. As a teacher, I'm walking into the building with a set schedule. As a leader, I might have a set schedule if I'm planning properly, but it might immediately become obsolete as soon as I walk in the building. The learning curve that I had to navigate was I'm walking in the building with my bags on. Teachers are firing questions at me. I haven't even made it to my desk yet. How am I navigating that? With being tactful.